I'm Trish Klein, the Itasca County Administrator.
And I'm Chris Fulton with the Grand Rapids Area Community Foundation.
Chris and I have both participated in a Blandin-sponsored program called The Art of Hosting.
The Art of Hosting is a program which has actually been conducted a number of times here in Grand Rapids now. This is the fourth time it's being conducted. And what it is, it's a method, and there's some technology behind it, but mostly it's processes behind it, of how to facilitate a conversation, how to conduct a meeting, how to have a group of people that have, in some cases, very different ideas together to share those ideas, but you do it in a very civil and a very controlled way. And it's actually a very interesting kind of process.
It is, and when I was invited at first to a 3-day class in the art of hosting, I just wasn't quite sure what that was going to be. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that it really is a scientifically based leadership style of how to be with people and some specific processes that we learned. One of those processes is called the Community Café, or World Café. And Chris and I have also both participated in 2 of those events. And what you're about to see here is some clips from the second Community Café that was held yesterday afternoon at the Timberlake Lodge Hotel.
And it's called a community cafe. The formal term is a World Café. Mm-hmm. So if you were to go to any other meeting and you hear this World Café, it's the same thing. But we're specifically talking about our community, the greater Itasca area, in this particular situation.
Yes, and this particular process that we learned is really designed to bring together a group of people who care about their community. And actually what we're finding out in our gatherings is that, in fact, everybody cares about their community. And this is a way that we can bring people together who care about their community to have a conversation and build bridges amongst different groups to put us in a place where we can actually take action on the things that we care about. And so, here we go.
And what you're going to see is you're going to see a description of the process. Mm-hmm. And you'll actually, the main facilitator for the Art of Hosting training will give that. And then you're going to see the process where individuals are seated at tables and there's a question asked. That question gets milled for about 20 minutes at that table, and then you move to a new table, and in this case it's the same question, but it's a different audience. And so you carry the conversation to a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And that's really what the World Café does for us. It allows you to take a conversation, individuals with very different ideas, to a level that they normally wouldn't get to in a normal conversation.
So this is the second community cafe that's being held in the Itasca County area. And the idea for these 2 cafes and some other things that are coming up came out of an open space that happened at last November's Art of Hosting out at Sugar Lake Lodge. And during that open space, Sandy Lehman raised the inquiry, how can we become a community that hosts its own conversations? And had quite a lively and wonderful discussion during that open space. And then afterwards, as we talked about it, we said, well, how do we do that? How does that actually come alive? And so some of the folks that were in Sandy's open space group and some others started to explore what might be possible for this community, the larger Itasca County area, to begin hosting its own conversations. And that group has been meeting on a pretty regular basis since after the first of the year to both plan the community cafe that took place in February and the one that's taking place now today that you're all here for, and building towards an event that is going to happen on November 22nd, which is a community-wide open space. And we'll speak more to that at the end of our cafe here. But we have 5 people from that committee that's been meeting and helping to organize these 2 cafes that have happened and busy planning for November. And that's Sandy Lehman, Sandy, and Chris Fulton, and Becky LaPlante, and Heidi Holton, and Trish Klein. Is Trish here yet? So she'll be here eventually. So those 5 were all able to join us today, and Heidi's over here. And we also have, as kind of part of the build-up for the November event, we have local public television here, and Tron is busy shooting my good side. I have explicit instructions that I can't wander, and I'm a little bit disconcerted. Those of you that have seen me, at cafes around, I'm not a stand in one spot kind of guy. I'm a wander around kind of guy. So that's a bit of a challenge. And we have Heidi and Kari here from the second best radio station in Minnesota. I'm on the board of Prairie Public Broadcasting. But my friends that run the radio over out of North Dakota think the world of KAXE. They can't say, when I talk to the radio people there, they can't say enough good things about how fabulous. They call it KX. And how fabulous a radio station it is, and I love it. So it's programmed, I think, 4 spots in my car radio. So when I'm driving around northern Minnesota, I can always get it. So they're here to do a little bit of recording for this community conversations that are taking place and part of the build-up towards the open space, the grand gathering on November 22nd. What is the future we want to live into? Now that you've spoken a little bit about why you love living here, what is the future you want to live into as we go forward?
I'll go first because it just popped in my head. Every choice that I make, typically, I have 2 young kids, and so I make choices to thinking about their future, an extension of my future, and my age and my work and my retirement, but really my choices for them go much farther, in their life and as they go through school and as they turn into adults. So I guess I don't know how that answers the question really, but just the choices that I make are long-term, I guess, in every way, in every choice that I make, to try to think of their future.
So what do you want to see for them? What do you want to see from Grand Rapids relative to them?
Okay, so my first answer, first thing that popped into my head was I would like to see our community get more involved in decisions that affect the community.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? You'd like to see?
I'd like to see the community, the citizens, the community get more involved in decisions that are made for our community, in government, in schools, in really every aspect.
Some of the work that I've been doing with the kids at North Homes has been trying to, when they're super, transitory and they're moving through really quickly, to try to work with them to give them a sense of kind of having left an impression on the place. So like some of the work we're doing is murals, and we're doing things where we have sort of these fairly anonymous heads that represent the kids, and then they decorate the inside of the head and put in a design, and then their actual profile is like literally like profile face is in the hallway there, but it's completely filled with an abstract or colorful or some kind of design that has so there's no record of them as themselves, only as them as their creative self. And I've worked with some of the adults that go with Kiesler House and some other organizations kind of like that, and I find that really interesting too, but it's kind of become much more of a art therapy sort of bent to what I do versus just straight up teaching. Because teaching skills in terms of art really isn't that interesting to me, but teaching art as a coping skill is what I'm really fascinated by.
We got to figure out ways to make that more attractive for our children. So if they want to, they feel there's a place here for them, not just with mom and dad, but in society. And there's jobs here, or there's opportunities here that are there to be taken, advantage of, and somehow getting that information to them at a young enough age where They're not hearing about it as a senior in high school and it's an afterthought. It's more of a forethought. So.
We have over 7 billion people right now, and nobody's talking about zero population growth. And we all need air, we all need water, and we need enough soil to grow food unless we grow it hydroponically, which means we need water.
I don't want people to be looking at anybody with suspicion because of the color of their skin. Or what they're
I wrote
wearing.
down racial and ethnic blindness because you really want everybody to be blind to the differences racially and ethnically.
Not blind to difference, aware of privilege.
So the future then needs to be part creating more opportunity, but also part better marketing the area, for lack of a better word, to encourage new ideas coming into the community, new people, new experiences.
I think that is so much part of it, and I feel like I'm going to cut you off here, but you think about the difference that we've talked about between ourselves and cities further up the range and that get more remote. I think a lot of it stems so much from our different history in our resource economies. We had mining and forestry and tourist. In other places, the farther up you go, it kind of becomes more singular, larger employees, and I think you could. Some of these communities, Grand Rapids too, have gotten these scars from when large employment changes have happened, and it's caused that kind of tightening. And I think we experienced some of that too in our comments about, well, I've lived here 40 years, but I'm still an outsider. But yet, you can enter a room and know everyone there, and I think it's addressing that. But anyways.
And there's some definite building blocks that will, kind of build on.
All right, how would I do a tweet here? I don't even, what would even be a tweet? I don't tweet. I don't know what you make that. I don't know.
Look at how I draw.
I'm looking at my people.
The expenses have risen a lot more than incomes have. And I think that's what...
And I'm just talking basic needs. I mean, you're talking about medical.
He's talking about the issue, though, of income relative to cost. And, I remember when the average income was $2,000 or $3,000 for the average car was $2,000 or $3,000 tops, and maybe their income was $10,000 or $12,000 a year.
Our table harvesters are going to stay at the table. The rest of you are going to get up and move to a different table, distribute in all directions, and when you're settled, I will unveil the next question.
Did anybody talk about housing as a part of the future?
No, they were all about healthcare.
Because we have and Isaac from Kutaska who are both driving an hour and a half to work because you cannot find houses to rent in Grand Rapids.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was an issue. I didn't know it was that big of an issue.
3 months. Wow. 3 months. There's just nothing there. A house with 3 bedrooms or more that will let us have our dog, because if the dog went away, I would get kicked out of the house.
Everybody loves the nature, the water, the loons. And then after that, I mean, it just took off into, a few other things. But mostly it was like, how do we preserve our water here? Because a lot of people, in the world don't have access to clean water. And in northern Minnesota, we're kind of like known for having really pure, clean water. But we're almost entering like this energy crisis mode with Enbridge and pipelines and the sulfide mining. And, I grew up in Northern California on a family-owned vineyard. And when I was 10 years old, my parents decided to cut down, our orchard. And, I have to say that here I am, 57 years old, and that was it was like a tragedy in my childhood to come home from school and see all these trees cut down. And every day, I see all these trees being cut going down 169. And it's kind of like reliving, and I know we need paper. It's just, and when I first came here 5 years ago, I kayaked on 60 lakes because I wanted to figure out, where did I move to? What is this land like? Just trying to figure out, because I couldn't see above the trees.
We centered a lot around community and some of the differences we feel like we experience here as opposed to some of the other communities we've lived in or some of our other local communities. And the future we kind of wanted it to live into ended up kind of being summed up by one of us as a community with draw, where people want to live here, people want to come back. There's an ability and power to live here, that there's jobs.
So a draw to come back?
So that it's not a draw to come back, but a community with draw. So that, say, kids who leave want to come back, people outside the community want to come and be here.
People over here want to stay here.
Yes, so it encompassed a whole range of that. That was kind of the future, that there was a pull.
A magnet type.
Yeah. And we talked about those pieces to it and everything from a welcome community to jobs to engaged kids in the schools to all sorts of things.
But there's that other part of this community that wants all those people to stay where they're at.
We talked about that too.
Yeah.
Being here for 40 years and being an outsider.
I've heard that from so many people recently, not the 40 necessarily, but just the fact that people coming into the community who don't have existing connections here feel like it's impossible to break through.
We have to create an environment of trust where they can learn to trust each other and have open forums and be able to communicate and explore.
We need
options.
to build the world you want to live in, not the world that we imagined.
Oh, yeah.
We need to build a world that really pertains to the future. And we can't stay with the old ways and the old ways of doing things all the time. And that you see that it is literally a roadblock. I think you guys probably have seen it and just don't verbalize it very much. But to be able to say, this is the way we did it, but we really have to have faith in the people that we've raised as young adults in our community to keep the water initiatives going. Because there gets to be a point in life where, and you understand this, where they just look at you and they shake their head and you're like, oh, they're just being conciliatory to me now. And we don't want you to be conciliatory. We want you to really take it and make it happen and ask for help when you need it.
There's value in wisdom and there's value in innovation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those are the two sides of the creative coin.
Yep.
If you really want to create a world for everybody that has a future, those are the two elements you really need to no, one more. Trust has to be in the middle.
So to me that feels like a really relevant piece of the future. What is the future we want to live into? We have to start working now on the story and the stories that go into how we describe our experiences now, and be really sort of clear, I think, on where, like, what end game do those things that we tell each other, true or not true, perception or fact, where does that get us? And so to me, I would like to, what is the future that I want to live into? It would be figuring out how I contribute to the story now, but also being able to create a future where that story can keep going. Where there's not an end. It's a continuation. There's another chapter, another iteration of the story that's just as robust as what I'm experiencing now, or more so.
So what's next? Well, the next event is called the Grand Gathering, and the Grand Gathering is a community event. So you've seen a little bit of a process. We're actually going to do the Grand Gathering in a different process. It's called Open Space, and it really is very unique in how it gathers information. But let me give you just some background first on the Grand Gathering itself. We're going to meet on November 22nd. It's a Saturday, and we're going to we conduct this from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, so it is a daytime event, but we're going to provide lunch, and it's going to be at the high school. And so it's a place where everybody knows where it is. It's a very comfortable space, and we're going to make it even more so. And then we're going to get into the open space. And I'm going to let Trish talk about the open space format.
Open space is a process of bringing diverse groups of people together with their own ideas and concerns to have a larger conversation.
So what that really means is that if you have an issue that you want to talk about that's related to the community, bring it to the open space. You'll get an audience, and you'll get people who want to be part of that discussion, or they don't want to be part of that discussion. It's really a kind of an interesting process in how that works. And it gets deep into conversations that you normally would not have in a community.
And essentially, it is operated like a marketplace. So I come with my idea and my concern, which may be building public trust. And I would come with my idea and I would post my idea in the marketplace, and people who are interested in having that conversation would sign up to be part of that, of my group. And so some other topics that we know already from our World Cafés that are likely to come up are concerns that we have around balancing economic development and stewardship of our natural resources. Some other topics include inclusion and belonging, and how do we really bring our strengths to the table so that we can together make a more effective difference in creating more good in our community.
And so who are looking at attending this is really you. So anyone in the community is invited, and bring your friends, and bring your issues and be a part of the conversation, because that's really what this is about. And it goes back to the initial group that went through the art of hosting, asked the question, how can we have more meaningful conversations in our community? And it's resulted in this first ever grand gathering on November 22nd. It's going to be a fun event.
It is going to be a fun event, and again, the time is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and it is in the high school, the Grand Rapids High School. There is lunch provided, there are beverages and snacks provided, there is going to be daycare provided for children, and we really want to invite everyone in our community. And so no matter who you are, we want you to feel like you belong at our grand gathering.
The more voices, the better, and the more different voices, the better, and that's important. So pay attention to the paper, the radio, other things you normally would pay attention to for community events, and we hope to see you there.
Absolutely. And again, November 22nd, the third Saturday of deer hunting. Hopefully you have your deer by then and you'll be able to come. We're not sure if Chris is going to be able to make it, not sure if he's going to have his deer by that time. But again, it is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Grand Rapids High School, and we hope to see you there.